Welcome back to Cards and Comics, guys. Still in Germany, still making videos. I want to do a little video here where I haven't done these in a while, but I want to talk about pricing. And I ran some numbers. I made, some spreadsheets, or a spreadsheet, not some, just one. And I want to talk to you about year-over-year pricing for comparing car prices from 2021 to basically now for vintage Hall of Fame rookie card. So I'm going to turn off my camera so that we can see the entire 3, 2, 1. All right, we are back, and I have a spreadsheet here. Now, some people may remember the spreadsheet from a video I did before, where I compared 2021 versus 2022 Hall of Fame prices for the 60s. So this is every Hall of Fame rookie card from the 60s, and I compare the price change from 21 to 22 for PSA 6, 7, and 8 graded Hall of Famers, right? And the reason why I did it like this was so that you could see like what the price changes looked like overall from 21 to 22. Now I've got 23 in the mix and an early peak at 2024. Now these year-over-year prices right here are for 22 versus 23, guys, not 23 versus 24. And the summary, again, everything's on 22 versus 23, but I wanted to throw 24 in there because a couple months in, and what's the pricing look like? What's the changes look like? Not surprising when you look at this that on average, so if I just kind of look, on average, 22 versus 23, the average price difference was, across all grades, down around 15% versus 22. So what does that mean? Well, it just means that a majority of the price increases we saw from 21 to 22 went back down in 23. So you saw a spike and a dip. That's what we all think. But in 24, I'm just going to say it's a very flat. And we'll get into more of those numbers here. But down here at the bottom, I got kind of a chart. But before I get to the chart I want to show 3 players here that kind of didn't follow some of the trends. First of all, there's a couple of cards here. Tony Oliva's cards are kind of up a little bit. You've got, the last PSA 8 of Willie Stargell rookie card actually didn't go down. Stayed flat. Very interesting. And you had some positive, increases in value here. Phil Niekro's rookie card in a PSA 6 went up a little bit. So it just shows you like there are some pluses and minuses to kind of think about. But in general, like Steve Carlton's cards really didn't change. And the reason why, and I'm going to tell you, I've seen the pop counts. This card has one of the highest pop counts and sell-through rates of any Hall of Fame rookie card in the 60s. So to me, I just think that there's such a volume of this card being sold that really the prices just kind of even out. You don't see the fluctuation like you do in a 62 Gaylord Perry or 62 Lou Brock, which only a couple cards are sold in high-end in a given year. So a lot more price fluctuations happen when a card has more scarcity. So that's why I think that card. And that's also why you see the Nolan Ryan, the Reggie Jackson. These guys are kind of flat. They haven't gone up and gone down tremendously during this time period. There's tremendous popularity in the Nolan Ryan and Reggie Jackson cards, but there is also pretty good supply. So you're not seeing a lot of fluctuations with those 3 guys. Again, it's really high demand, high supply. So you don't see those tremendous fluctuations like you do for some other cards. And also they're popular. Like again, a Don Sutton might just go up and down because there isn't a lot of Don Sutton fans bidding on a card and it sells for a lot cheaper one time. So if I look over year, I got some charts and stuff at the bottom here. But this is 21 versus 22. So that's what year 22 means. Prices went up across the board on average 15%. The PSA 8 grade went up the most, 26%. High end kind of dominated a little bit, as far as what people were really looking for in 60s Hall of Famers. And I'm going to tell you that 60s Hall of Famers are so much higher in availability that getting an 8 is actually a lot easier than the 50s. So a lot of collectors can look for the 8. They're willing to pay more for the 8, and I think that's why you saw that price go up so much for the PSA because they were there for the taking. And people thought they were good investments. They were willing to pay more for those cards in 2022. In 2023, everything went down. And look how, on average, everything was very similar. Everything went down around 15% across all grades. So it's almost like, there was a magic number in the sky we all looked to and said, everything's down 15%. And that's what happened. Then in 2024, so 24 versus 23, again, just a couple months in, you can see on average it's pretty flat, 2% growth on all grades. But you can see 4s and 7s are up a little bit more. I mean, being up a little bit is much better than being down 15%, right? That seems like a ray of sunshine, a little bit of a rainbows in this dark and cloudy, gloomy pricing for the last, basically almost 2 years. Now, on average versus 2021, if you bought Hall of Fame rookie cards in 2021 versus now, you're seeing a slight lift in prices in a 5 and a 7, and on 6s are down a little bit versus 2021. That's just how it is. So I think looking at it in a little different way is if you were to take the average price of a Hall of Famer in a grade from PSA 6, 7, or 8, what would you have had to have paid for these cards in 2021 versus 2023? 22 versus 23. What was the average price you had to pay in these years? And how did they change year over year? Well, in 2021, on average, the cost was $981 across all grades. It went up basically on average $200 per card. This is per card, right? So again, when you've got around 25, 26 cards, that's a pretty big price increase. Then it went down basically the same amount, $176. And then we're up a little bit in 24. So again, you can see those prices and how those averages are working out. But if you want to look at, if I bought all the Hall of Fame rookie cards in these grades in a PSA 6, 7, or 8, what would I've had to pay? And this just shows you, how much the value of of this Hall of Fame set would have cost you. Basically, in 2021, $44,000, 605 for a PSA 8 set on average. Today, you'd have to pay $47,000 for it, right? Which is, again, a $3,000 increase. So in reality, the PSA 8 set is worth $3,000 more than it was in 2021 on average. The PSA 7 set is very flat, up a little bit, and the 6 set is down. So again, you can see the flattening here, of prices between 7s and 8s. Again, it's just averages of averages, right? It's not like it's a huge, revelation, but it does show that 2024 things are kind of flattening out. Some are going up, some are going down, but 23 versus 24, very similar, which is good. We want prices to stabilize, right? But it does show that if you went and bought all the PSA Hall of Famers in 6, 7, or 8, you would have made more money buying the 8s versus 6s. And that's been a big argument in the hobby is, and I remember when, and I think, again, because I'm using the 1960s, that the 8 is the better grade to think about for long-term investment, collectability type thing. If this was 50s and 40s, like the 48 Jackie Robinson, or the 50s Hall of Fame rookie cards, I think you would saw bigger price increases in the 4, 5s, and 6s, and 7s and 8s, just in general, because affordability, availability. When you get older, the generations before this, the decades before this, those cards are much harder to find in high grade. And therefore, I do think you would have been better off from a percentage of increase or total value increase, probably buying 4s, 5s, and 6s for cards made prior to 1960. I do think 60s, you would have been better off buying 8s, which is what this shows. In the 70s, you're better off buying 9s if you want cards to stay at a certain value or to grow. That's just, based on the data I've ever seen, the data I've done multiple times. That is, if you want something to kind of grow in this hobby, I do think you have a better shot in the 60s of buying PSA 8s, in the 70s buying PSA 9s. For most cards. I mean, 71 tops, I mean, come on. 9s are pretty pricey. So, maybe not for those. But for most of the cards, 9s are probably still in play. Now, the little chart I put together is just showing you, these pricing, changes over time, a little trend chart here, just showing you how the prices kind of on average went up across all grades and flattened back down. And, again, $200 is $200 like per card. That's, a pretty big price swing on average. But, in general, we're back to where we were in 2021. And, slightly up, right? So we're better off than we were in 2021, by like $52 on average, something like that. So yeah, I mean, the hobby grew in the last 2 years and the last 3 years. Um, but again, this does go to my point is, if you just look at VCP and take any Hall of Fame rookie card especially from the 60s, and just expand out the time frame, you'll see in general prices are pretty flat and go up a little bit over time. Then you'll see some huge thing happen like COVID. Prices kind of had this, big delta, and then they kind of settle back down and they kind of flatten out for long periods of time. We're in a time period, in my opinion, I talked about that in my video, The Great Flattening. We're in a flat period. I'm going to predict right now that we're going to see prices just stabilize and flatten. You're going to see a card with great centering and color sell for a little bit more, or maybe even a lot more than another copy that's a lot worse for a PSA rookie card. But you start averaging all the prices together, 15, 20, 30 sales in 1 year for some copies, maybe a couple hundred sales in 1 year for another copy, and it's going to be, on average, pretty flat. And I think that's great for people who are putting sets together, because now you can kind of like figure out what your price is going to be and what you're going to have to pay. I think there was a lot, in my opinion, a lot of stress for some collectors during the 22 period, where prices started to just accelerate kind of out of control. 21, 22, where we just saw prices just go nuts. And you're like, well, I can't afford to collect this anymore. I can't complete my set. And now we're seeing prices coming down and flattening. So now you at least know that, hey, I don't have to buy something tomorrow because it's going to go up 2x, 3x tomorrow. It's going to be very flat for a while. I can save my money up, make some trades, sell a few cards off, go buy a piece because it's going to be within a certain price range. I have some predictability into my hobby now as far as collecting. So that's what I think, guys. Tell me what you think in the comments about pricing. I use 60 Hall of Famers because of one big reason: availability, and the pop counts are high enough that you can get enough data to really make some inferences. Let me know what you think of the videos. Do you like these kind of videos? I don't make them as much as I used to just because of the time issues. I mean, I'm making this video in Germany. I mean, come on, guys. It's hard for me to make some of these sometimes. If you like them, let me know and I'll do more of them. I do like making videos, and I do like talking to you guys. So let me know in the comments. I'll see you next time on Cards and Comics. Bye.